Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Gradeup. Welcome to your YouTube exclusive CAT channel for YouTube for you guys for your MBA preparation. Today we will continue our discussion of the CAT 2019 paper. We are doing part 3. If you remember, good afternoon, Aninda. Okay, let me get this closer to me. All right. If you remember, we had covered reading comprehension, quite a few passages. So we left with one passage for today, but that passage should take up most of our time today. Most students hated the passage, and frankly I didn't understand why. So you're going to look at this passage, and if you tell me if it is really that terrible, that insufferable, that people said, oh, topophilia passage was the worst. Frankly, I've seen worse, and I don't think this was the worst ever CAT passage. The questions were pretty easy, and I do not know. So let us look at it afresh. If you found it difficult during the test, that means you did not leave yourself enough time to read it. If you have attempted it before. If you haven't, then start with a clear mind and clear slate that this is not that tough. All right. So how do we go about it? I'll show you the passages, each slide, that is about a para and a half or 2 paragraphs of the passage, for about a minute before I move on to the next slide. Suppose in that 1 minute you are not able to read the entire slide, don't worry. I hope you can, because 1 minute is more than enough time to read it. All right. I'm facing issues in non-factual RCs. Only practice, right? You read, you understand what you're reading. The problem, non-factual, I assume, is ones which are like philosophical or literature based or things like that. It's only about so today's passage should give you an idea. It is about it is not so much as factual. It's one's reflection on a phenomenon, and let's see how you do. Read it, simplify it in your own words. That's the best way. You cannot ace an essay, you cannot ace an RC, do well in an RC unless you concentrate and read. Okay, believe in your reading ability and just read. Let's test it out today. All right, Aman, let's start it. All right, so 45 seconds to a minute. I'll give you a minute per each slide. All right, and then we will summarize the entire passage before we move on to the questions. Start reading now. All right, good afternoon. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. All right. So, was this passage, apart from the fact that it kept using terms that we were not aware of, topophilia, not many would have been aware of what it meant before you read this passage, was it really that tough? First glance, when you looked at the passage, you've read it once, did you find it very tough? I don't think so, right? All right, let's now simplify the passage for ourselves. It's a process you have to go through. So he says he has defined the term. So now you know what the term means. As defined by Twain, topophilia is the affective bond between people and place. Affective means related to moods and feelings, and okay, so that bond in terms of feelings, in terms of moods between people and a place. His book set forth a wide range of explorations of how emotive ties, so topophilia is your emotional bond between people and a place. It vary greatly. So this emotional bond that you have with a place varies from person to person, and it varies in intensity, subtlety and mode of expression. It's not the same for everybody, it varies. He says, and there are factors which affect the depth of response to your environment. What are these factors? Cultural background, gender, age and historical circumstances. And he also said there is a biological and a sensory element to sensory related to your physical senses. It might not be the strongest of human emotions. Again, the bond that a person has for a place, the emotional attachment or the emotional ties that you have to a place may not be the strongest of human emotions, and in fact there are a lot of people who are indifferent to the place. But when this bond is activated, when you're conscious and it's activated, it has a power. What power does it have? To elevate a place to become a carrier of emotionally charged events, and that place suddenly will be perceived as a symbol. Okay, so then he talks of what are the different ways you respond to an environment or a place. aesthetic appreciation, in terms of appreciation of beautiful things. Aesthetic means appealing to your sense of beauty. Aesthetic appreciation is one way in which people respond to the environment. For example, after rain, you notice a rainbow and suddenly everything around you looks beautiful, right? So he says, a busy street alive with human interaction, you may just experience the beauty of a landscape at that moment after a rain, when you see a rainbow, when you just discover it. Or this is one like you going around in a place and suddenly rain and the rainbow makes you appreciate that place. Or it could be the other way around, that is, it could be an acquired taste for certain landscapes and places. The place is not special, suddenly it acquires a special place and bond in your heart because it is home, or it is the place where you have lot of memories, or it's a means of gaining a livelihood. So it evokes a set of deep attachments than just something that is purely visual. So topophilia can be visual, aesthetic bond. It could be bond that comes out of memory for a particular place, or an attachment like a home or a place of work. A third response to the environment depends on your senses. It may be tactile. Tactile means relating to your sense of touch, or olfactory, relating to your sense of smell. And namely, a delight in the feel and smell of air, water and the earth. Anybody who has lived in a seaside town, anybody who has lived in Mumbai would come to Bangalore. What do you miss the most about Mumbai? The sea breeze, they would say. They say that you can smell the sea in Mumbai, and that's what I miss most. That's what they would say. So he says the smell of the air, water and earth. Okay. Then he says topophilia and its close conceptual twin, that is sense of place. So topophilia is your bond with a place, your emotional bond with a place. So it all obviously is very closely related to your sense of place. It is an experience that, however elusive, it's an elusive experience, elusive, not elusive, elusive, not easily felt, right, not easily captured. But it has inspired architects. So they have said that, the modern suburbs and the central cities don't have any character. So what have they done? They have tried to put neo-traditional design motifs so that they make the people living in those places feel some sense of emotional attachment to the place where they are. Although motivated by good intentions, such attempts to create places rich in meanings are bound to disappoint. He says architects and designers are trying to create places which have a sense of meaning and purpose for you, where you probably would develop a bond. But he says it is not very successful. Why? Pure aesthetic responses are suddenly revealed when you go to these neo-traditional design motifs, but their intensity is rarely long-lasting. This artificially created designs may evoke feelings, aesthetic feelings, like, oh, this is beautiful or something, but it doesn't have a very long lasting effect. Then he comes to this statement where he says topophilia is difficult to design for. You can't design it, he says. It's difficult to design for and impossible to quantify. You cannot. It's an elusive thing. It's very subjective. It's a person's bond or ties with a place, and emotions cannot be external, right? So it's impossible to quantify. You cannot design it. And who have been its most articulate interpreters, people who have interpreted this topophilic emotion the best? They have been self-reflective philosophers such as Henry David Thoreau, Walden Pond, and who had this sense of place in a place called Walden Pond, and Twain, the man who wrote, whose definition we used. Then the last paragraph, he says topophilia connotes a positive relationship, but it can be used to explore the darker affiliations. Affiliation means association, connection, the darker affiliations between people and place. It has a positive connotation, but it could It could be used to explore your darker, the other side too. What is that? Patriotism, the author's interpretation. Patriotism, literally meaning love for one's homeland, has long been cultivated by governing elites, by governments, for a range of nationalist projects, including war, ethnic cleansing, Hitler, ethnic cleansing, Aryan, superiority of the Aryan race, and things like that. So, this love for your motherland, in a way, according to the author, it's a darker affiliation of people with place, and you could do a lot of negative things as a result of that. Then he gives another example of its darker affiliation, that is, residents of upscale residential developments have disclosed how important it is to maintain their community's distinct identities. Oh, we are the super rich, we will stay in our apartment, and they cast themselves in a superior position and they reinforce class and racial differences. So, if you are in an upscale residential locality, you want people to know I am in an upscale residential locality, so you want to reinforce, and in doing so, you are reinforcing class and racial differences. Then he comes to the other side. He talks of a phenomenon called topophobia. What does he say? He says, just as a beloved landscape is suddenly revealed and you get a lot of positive emotions out of it, a fear of the landscape can cast a dark shadow over a place that makes you feel a sense of dread or anxiety, or topophobia. Did you feel that topophobia when you were children? If you didn't like school, and you had to go to school, let's say on a holiday, every place in that school has this, even the empty classrooms would bring in a sense of dread, and that he calls it, when a place has pleasant memories, pleasant emotive ties, it could be positive. Topophilia's darker side can be exploited. Patriotism, he talks of the darker affiliation, but the other side, the landscape, may also bring out a sense of fear and dread in you, and that is called topophobia. Is it that hard? No. All right. Question 1, which was question 20 in the paper. The word topophobia is used in the passage. We read it last. So, which is the correct answer? Read all 4 options and tell me which is the right option. The word topophobia in the passage is used to do what? To represent a feeling of dread towards particular spaces and places, as a metaphor expressing the failure of the homeland to accommodate non-citizens. Okay, to signify the fear of studying the complex discipline of topography, to signify signs of fear or anxiety towards topophilic people. Fear or anxiety is right. This part of the answer option is wrong. Fear of studying, alien concept, not mentioned, right? A is the answer. Ursulan came in with the answer pretty quickly. A, Aman, good. Who else? All right. So, A is the answer for 20. All of you are happy? Okay. 21. In the last paragraph, the author uses the example of the residents of upscale apartments. Good, good. All of you gave A. Good. Residents of upscale residential apartments. He has given their example to illustrate what point? Introduction of nationalist project by such elite to produce a sense of topophobia. The manner in which environments are designed to minimize the exclusion of their clientele. Sensitive response to race and class problem in upscale residential developments. Social exclusivism practiced by such residents in order to enforce a sense of racial or class superiority. Kajal thinks it's D. What are the rest of you think? What do the rest of you think? What's the answer? Why does he give the example of residentials of upscale residents of upscale residential development? What do they do? So the reason I waited is, Mayank, read the difference between C and D. Okay, I will show you the I'll show you the line. Okay, residents of upscale residential developments have disclosed how important it is to maintain their community's distinct identity. So they cast themselves, they portray themselves in a superior social position, and they reinforce class and racial differences. Is this positive or negative? What do? They want to say, we are upscale, we are different from you. So what do? They want to maintain that distinction. They want to tell the rest who are not in that upscale complex that, look, we are superior to you, we have a superior social position to you. So in doing that, what do? They reinforce racial and class differences. So the tone is negative. Now what does this option mean? Sensitive response. If you are sensitive to race and class problems, it's a positive statement. You say, oh, there are race and class problems, I must work towards resolving them. So a person who's sensitive in nature would understand the problem. So sensitive response, they're being very insensitive. You understand? They're being insensitive, not sensitive. Okay, therefore the answer is not C, answer is D. So what is social exclusivism? We are superior to you, so we will not include people who are not in our class and not in our race. So racial and class differentiation. Understood? You have to read well. Jessica, 1, practice reading, read the newspaper every day. Accuracy will improve if you understand what the question is saying and then understand the options. Once you read, then your vocabulary and your overall understanding of the language will increase. Then your accuracy will also increase. Alright, so step number 1 for all of you is to read newspapers, articles and editorials. That way you understand what is being said, and then you practice RC passages where you understand what the RC passage is saying by, whatever you understand. Then make sure you know what the question is asking and eliminate answers. You can understand it the way I am, Mayank. I am not doing anything different. That's why I am reading it every time कि ऐसे पढ़ना चाहिए. All you have to do is get into the habit of reading like this. After you read the paragraph once, simplify it in your own words. जो भी समझ में आया, put it in your own words and move to the next. Even if you understand 50% of the passage like that, you will understand it. So don't worry. Just keep reading. That's all I'm asking. Let's say you read an editorial today. Can you put down the paper and can you tell yourself what did you read? If you do that, then you know that you understood the main point of the passage. Alright, and keep practicing, because English language is not something that happens overnight. Correct? Now I am comfortable with English, but ask me something in Hindi, I'll start faltering, right? It's not something I'm very conversant with. This after watching every Amitabh Bachchan movie that is there on television, everything, 10 baar dekh liya. But the point is, am I comfortable with it? No. Now how do I get better at it? Somebody give me, I have to listen to the Hindi news every day. I have to read a Hindi newspaper or a Hindi book. Then my Hindi will improve. So it's all about practice. It's a language that you understand. So the basic problem is out. ऐसा नहीं कि आप लोगों को English समझ में नहीं आता है. You understand it beautifully. right? When you are writing it, you are writing well. Like Mayank says, it's easy when you comprehend it. Now, not many people would use the word comprehend it, means to understand it, right? So, now put it into practice by reading and trying to understand what have you read. It's focus that's important. All right, question 22. Why does the author say topophilia is difficult to design for and impossible to quantify? Why is it? Those architects have tried. Nahi hoga, because you can't design it, you cannot quantify it. Why do you think he says that? Is what the question is asking. All right, Aman says it's B. What about the others? What about the others? Quickly, let me see the answers. Aman thinks it's B. Do you think he is right? B. Kajal also B. All right. Jessica, Mayank, Arsalan, Anando or Anindo? Anando. Okay. What are your answers? Philosopher architects are uniquely suited, he said. Then he will not say it is difficult. People's response to their environment is subjective, which is why topophilia is subjective and it cannot be quantified, it cannot be designed. All right, so it is subjective, so it cannot be designed. So answer is B. Architects have to objectively quantify spaces, hence cannot be topophilic. Did he say that? They have tried and they have succeeded to a certain extent. The deep anomie of modern urbanization, nothing to do with topophilia. All right, okay. 23. So remember, if the passage is even looks tough, it's tough for the examiner also. The questions look really easy. So don't run away from a passage which at first glance looks difficult. Which one comes closest to the meaning author's understanding of topophilia? So in the whole passage, the author has explained his understanding of topophilia and we read it. That's the main point. So which one is closest to the way the author understands topophilia? काजल, टोपोग्राफी कहाँ बोला है? Did he say anything of sense of topography? Sense of place is different from sense of topography. Did he say they are either born with most creatures? Has he talked of most creatures? All right. Second, they cultivate a strong sense of topography, has he said. Topophilia is different from topography. Topophilia is your emotive ties to a place, right? Your emotional, your feelings, your attitudes, your emotional bonds with a place. So most creatures cultivate a sense of topography is the area, the land around you. That is topography. Correct. You misread. C is wrong. Ye misread. If you do it in cat, you will get minus marking, so cannot be C. So what's the next answer, which is okay? Aman and Mayank think it's B. Author has given the example of patriotism, love for your motherland or fatherland. He talks of it as that can be seen as topophilia, which is the negative affiliation of that topophilia is that the governments, the governing elites have used it for ethnic cleansing, for war preparation. That sense of love that you have for your motherland, that association has a negative part. That is the negative, the, what did he call it? The dark affiliations, right? Topophilia connotes a positive relationship, but it is often useful to explore the dark affiliations between people and place. And according to him, patriotism, he gives us an example of a darker affiliation of a person to a place, because it is patriotism that makes you jingoistic, fanatic about your country. And that fanaticism, that love for your motherland is exploited by governments in war preparation, in ethnic cleansing, in all things. That's why he calls it darker affiliation, but it's a form of topophilia, your emotional bond with your motherland. Okay, they say people who, NRIs who stay abroad, whenever they listen to the national anthem, they start crying. Many of them have taken citizenship of foreign countries, but the moment they listen to Jana Gana Mana, they start crying. That's a form of patriotism. Even though they call themselves citizens of US or Germany or wherever they are, the Indian part of it hasn't gone. The strong feeling that is evoked by a national anthem cannot go. That's a kind of topophilia. I mean, the national anthem evokes memories of your motherland, which is topophilia. All right, 24. Which of the options does not contradict the arguments in the passage? That means one option does not, three others contradict. Give me the question number, okay, 24, that then I'll know your talk. Yeah, Mayank, why the question mark? Why the question mark? Okay, it is B, because the author also has represented patriotism as a darker affiliation between people and place. Now, how does D contradict what the author's argument in the passage? Olfactory relating to your sense of smell, tactile relating to your sense of touch, because the author doesn't say it is the most important or fundamental response. He has mentioned that it may also be olfactory and tactile, like the smell and feel of a place, right? But he does not say it is fundamental, so that way it contradicts the passage. Here he says it varies, and A says very little, that means it doesn't vary much, so this contradicts. New urbanism has not succeeded, he says. It is maybe momentarily you get an aesthetic sense, but doesn't last long, so this also contradicts. All right, so the answer for 24 is B. Was it such a hard passage? Now, if you got this in 2019, why do you think the students who took the paper in 2019, no, this question wasn't tough, which could be seen as not contradicting. Now, if you read this passage, you don't have to read anything else. If you read this and remember this, if you remember this part, topophilia connotes a positive relationship, but it is often useful to explore the darker side of the association between people and place. And as an example of the darker side of affiliation, he has given one, the example of patriotism, two, the examples of residents of upscale residential locality. So those two, one, that patriotism is used for negative things like making war and for ethnic cleansing, so that is the darker affiliation. And second negative thing is people who stay, who become very attached to their upscale localities, they think they are superior to others and they push the others away. That also becomes a negative. If you remember this, you don't have to look at the other options. The moment you see patriotism is seen as darker, you say, yeah, this is what he has said. Right? That is why it is not really seem that tough. Right? Thank you, Mayank. But the point is, don't say that. You should not be dependent on me, right? So can you do what I did? If you found my way of explaining easy, why don't you talk to yourself this when you're doing the passage? Just imagine this fat grey-haired lady talking and say, "Acha, if ma'am would have explained it, how would she explain it?" Imagine yourself as a teacher and you're explaining the passage to me, and tell yourself, how would you do that? Generally, yes, extreme words are generally wrong, but Kajal, if it's mentioned in the passage, it may not be wrong. But yeah, we tell people, whenever you see a passage with words like never, always, that itself is an indication that may not be the right one, because unless the author has mentioned it in the passage, most passages, the authors qualify their sentences by saying, to most people this may sound like this. And in passages like this, they use a lot of double negatives. Varies little means does not vary much, right? One para-jumble only I have selected for today. Next class, we will do all the para-jumbles, including what we did today. This is an easy para-jumble. Actually, 2019, the odd one out para-jumbles and the para-jumbles, even the summary was very, very easy. That was the reading comprehension was tough, but this part was very easy. Most of the students said they got all of their questions correct in this section, odd one out and para-jumbles. I thought, since most people said that, Mayank, one reason in which you take the wrong direction of explanation is you must be concentrating on one word in the passage instead of the entire sentence. When you do that, what happens is, read the passages in thought units, in entire sentences, and try to understand it. Okay, then you will not take the wrong direction, okay, in explanation. And next time I'll do one thing. Next time when we do passages, we will do 19 shift 2 after, no, next part is para-jumbles, right? I will tell you to summarize in your own words each of the paragraphs, all right? And since, see, if it had been a classroom and I was facing you, it would be easier. After you do that, I will not summarize the passage, all right? After, when we go to the questions, after you mark the answers, I'll ask you, why did you mark that answer? And then we will see if it works, as to why did you mark a particular option. So next time I will not summarize it. Each of you has to summarize it for yourselves. All right. Okay. 25. Read the jumbled sequence. Try to find a starting sentence, failing which, what do? Try to look for links, as in two sentence mandatory pairs. 1, 2 definitely go together. 3, 4 definitely go together. Once you get that, then try to see which ordering of the sentence works. I'll give you a minute and 15 seconds for it. All right. Which one explains, Atul, which one explains, defines kind of mind reading properly and then takes it on? Is it 3-2 or is it 2-3? Look at both combinations and tell me which one makes more sense, 3-2 or 2-3, Atul. See, because 3 is talking about literacy and 2 again goes back to mind reading. Nahi hoga. People with dyslexia have difficulty with print reading. Aman, 4 talks of mind reading as if it's not introducing mind reading for the first time. Right? So let me read the sentences, okay? People with dyslexia have difficulty with print reading and people with autism spectrum disorder have difficulty with mind reading. An example of a lost cognitive instinct is mind reading, our capacity to think of ourselves and others as having beliefs, desires, thoughts and feelings. This is a perfect explanation of what is mind reading. Okay, so here mind reading looks increasingly like literacy. And what is literacy? A skill which we know for sure is not in our genes since scripts have been around for only 5,000 to 6,000 years. So this introduces mind reading, then says mind reading is a lot like literacy. All right. Then it says print reading like mind reading. So since mind reading has already been introduced, then he says print reading like mind reading varies across cultures and depends heavily on certain parts of the brain and is subject to developmental disorders. Now 4 introduces the term developmental disorders and then 1 expands on it. How is it subject? How are print reading and mind reading subject to developmental disorders? Excuse me. People with dyslexia, one kind of disorder, have difficulty with print reading. People with autism have difficulty with mind reading. So it is 2, 3, 4, 1. You cannot be in a hurry. Now, even if you thought it's 1, 4, 1, 2, whatever, after you're done with that, let's say you say it is 1, 2, 3, 4, read together and then see if it makes sense. People with have print reading, mind reading, then he'll talk about if it is that way, he should mention print reading first and then mind reading. Okay. Now, the problem with that is print reading like mind reading, he says, and here he has defined what is mind reading. Therefore, you are wrong because I think you are in a hurry. You cannot do para-jumbles in a hurry. So I tell students, if you are attempting para-jumbles in CAT, if you do it in the last 5 minutes of the test, tab to galat hi hoga. Then don't tell me, ma'am, para-jumbles all I am getting wrong, because you will make mistakes if you are doing it in the last. Your maximum number of errors happen in the last 10 minutes of the test. So last 10 minutes of the test are kind of, you're taking a chance. Okay, so leave all the theta questions if they are there to the last, then be prepared to get it wrong. That will always be there. You should be if somebody suddenly gave me this question and say students are waiting, give them the right answer, it will not happen. See what happened with ALET, we did an analysis, NLU Delhi entrance test, ALET. There was an English paper and somebody else was supposed to do the analysis. He couldn't for some reason. So they said, can you do it? And I had to solve the passages and the questions in 10-15 minutes. And when I did it in 10-15 minutes, the stress levels increased. No, please, if you, Aman, the point is this, if you have time for it, 2 was the explanation of 3 because of the word example. Okay, Atul. Okay. Number 1, should you attempt theta question? Yeah, theta question, if you get it right, do you know the advantage? If you have even 80% accuracy in theta questions, it's a huge jump for you. So usko thoda, honor it a little bit, then you will be right. Okay, this was not the easiest of questions, but if you got the links, it became easy. Alright, so next class we will do para-jumbles summary, including this question. Alright, and let's see how you do. Alright, okay. This seems to be the mandatory part of the class, where they said you should tell something about yourself. Not much to say. I tell people I'm 20 plus, but there I have put it down that I have 25 plus years of experience in aptitude training. I'm basically an English teacher. Okay, I teach English of all kinds, spoken and written, to schools, colleges and corporates across the spectrum, till I decided to join Gradeup full time. Okay, I love dogs, books and cricket in that order. Sometimes cricket would come number 2, but dogs are always number 1. And I don't have a pet, by the way. Yeah. So those of you interested in, or you have friends who are interested in CAT 2021 batches, enrollments have started on 5th October, the second of the batches actually. All right, and the CAT 2020 aspirants, the 100 percentilers mini boot camp, I hope you attended. Right now the boot camp is happening with all 100 percentilers, people who have 100 percentile in their individual sections in CAT. All right, okay. You all have heard about a Gradeup super subscription offer, which allows you to access all the courses. All right, there's something else that I wanted to tell you before you leave. We are the Dream 11 of Gradeup. Look at us. All right, I don't qualify. I'm like the 12th man, but there are only 11. And no separate batch for VARC, Mayank. VARC is part of the entire course. All right. Pranav, Jatin, Vikas, Vijay Jha, Ashish Tiwari, and I am Savitri Krishnamurthy. Vijay Jha's strategy sessions are a must. He has taken CAT almost every year since I don't know which year. All right. So do make sure when there is a session by Vijay Jha, it's a must attend. Sanojam, Anand Johari, Ajay Sareen, Tapesh and Vikrant. Look at that little note below Vikrant, 100 percentiler in VARC in CAT. Okay, so you would like to listen to him. He has a very cool attitude towards VARC. Actually, I attended some of his sessions and I enjoyed them thoroughly. Do attend his sessions and work hard, read the newspapers every day, and all the best. Yes, Jatin is excellent. He works very hard at all the questions, and I know that all the time he's into that only. All right, so prep smart, score better and go Gradeup. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll be bringing all the past year question papers. So do join me for the VARC paper discussion and the Quant and LRDI faculty for the discussions of that respective section. All right, like the video, share the video and make sure you subscribe to the channel, press the bell so that you get all notifications. Download our Gradeup app. There are a lot of good things happening on the app too. We have a lot of courses coming up. Gradeup believes in keeping us very, very busy. All right, okay, thanks a lot. Yes, Mayank, I enjoyed it too, and I'm happy it was a useful session for you. So next time, let us see all of you saying you did well in the non-factual to Aman and Mayank. Let's see you getting better marks. All right, so let me know how your practice sessions go when we meet next time. See you. Bye-bye.